Hey, what's going on? It's George Stroumboulopoulos here, and I was just on the Ryan Holtz podcast.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Ryan Holtz Show podcast. Listen, I have the most incredible guest, okay? We are sitting here in Los Angeles, so I had to take and pack up the bags from my 500-person hamlet out in Fairmont Hot Springs, British Columbia, to finally tangle my guest in LA here. I have none other than George Stroumboulopoulos, also known as Strombo, just received the Order of Canada.
That's weird, eh?
My goodness.
That's weird.
We have pop culture royalty. We're going all the way back to the Much Music days. I always think about, Rick Campanelli.
How are we ignoring that heavy wrist you bought? Look at that wrist.
Master.
Way down.
I
love
right?
that.
Right? Now he's doing House of Strombo. He's got his own show on Apple Music, 165 countries worldwide. George, welcome
So nice to see you.
the show.
How are you?
My man.
A couple of Canadians wiling out down here in the madness of LA.
Listen, I want to start off. You told a story about Edward Norton when you had interviewed him, and you said, we sat down, and he was kind of on his BlackBerry, back in the day when BlackBerries were cool, and you said, I kind of asked him a generic question, and he kind of gave me the generic answer, but you said, hey, no shade, man. I mean, I asked a generic question, this is what I got. Then you said, look, I'm gonna go in for it. And then you asked him a question. He basically said, okay. So today, let's go, George.
Ask whatever you want.
And interview.
There's value in generic questions because they set the stage for what you're going. And also in every interview, 60%, 40% of what you're going to ask, you kind of have to cover some ground. And that opens up the place. If the whole thing is just hard hit all the time, it's not the natural flow of a conversation. So I don't mind generic questions. I think they're fun because, especially with me, because I don't know where my brain is on a given day. I'm liable to say anything. So I'm always here for whatever.
Well, in Canada, literally, when we think of pop culture and we think of, music, we do think of Strombo. And it's, even I think back, I think you're 11, 12 years older than me, but I remember watching on Much Music. And my whole thought process was, this guy with the earrings and the hair and just, you look so different compared to your other, fellow comrades. And I said, this guy's truly himself, and doing it on his terms. How did you, come into, becoming one of the world's top interviewers? You've interviewed everybody on the planet. How did you get into that?
It's all by accident, honestly. And I think most of my life and career is I just kind of go with what feels right. And I don't have the wiring to fake it for too long. I can do it a little bit. When you live in a social contract, you have to, right?
Yes.
But for the most part, I got to be me. And that has worked in my career and also not worked. And I'm okay with that. So I think, when I was in high school in Malton, I had no career plans whatsoever. Nobody in my family really asked me what I wanted to do for a living. That's just not who we were. I just didn't have any aspirations to do it. I'm not a particularly ambitious guy, and I wasn't back then, right? But I love music, and I love film. And what I realized as I got older, what I loved about them was I loved storytelling. I loved how it connected all of us, and I loved how my friends and I, who had nothing in common perhaps in our homes, could sit and talk about music and sports and politics and film, and it was a common ground that we found. And I knew it then, but I wasn't able to articulate it till I got a little bit older. But that's what was really important to me, was that we kind of came together. If you grew up in ethnic neighborhoods, your families are all from different places. They share the common experience of being new to a country. But after that common experience, everything else is different and unique. So I learned a lot from different places, but I loved how we gathered in the middle for things. And so that just kind of happened. But I was honestly working at a movie theater. I had no career plans. I was working at the Woodbine Center in Rexdale, and I was just ripping tickets, no aspirations. Maybe I would make movies, but I didn't know how you could make a movie. This is pre-digital too, really. So I didn't know how you would even do that. I didn't know anybody in it. But I loved radio, and I loved music, and I loved talk radio. So what happened was I was working at this movie theater, and there was an adult learning center for Humber College next door. And there was this woman that worked there that I was sweet on. I was like, I had no chance. But I used to go visit her. And she obviously took an interest in me as a person, and she introduced me to this. I want to get a motorcycle license. I think I told you this before. And she gave me a course calendar, and I saw radio. And I went, well, I'll take that. And that was it, man. I had no plans. Because I didn't think you could do this for a living. I didn't know how you could do it. And it's not like I'm a white presenting ethnic guy, but there's lots of white guys on TV.
Sure.
But there weren't a lot of cats who were, a little edgier the way I was and wasn't really polished. I have I lisp. I speak too quickly. I'm unpolished.
Yeah.
And I will never be polished. And that's always been fine for me.
Yes.
So I just didn't expect it could happen. So when my career started to go, it was a bit surprising to me. And I think part of the reason that it started to go is because I'm interested in a lot of things. So I'm not a specialist in one area. I care about the story of us. And I think as time went on, my different bosses identified my curiosity and my work ethic and said, I think we could do something with this guy. And that's kind of how it happened, but never, ever the plan. Like never.
I want to go back to, first of all, our show's mandate is helping people live their full selves on purpose. I'm extremely passionate about this. Our whole motto is you are one-on-one.
Yeah.
And you are an OG of one of one. Where do you get the cojones and the balls to really pave your own way and do it your way, especially in a time when, I mean, the friction's going all against you?
Yeah. You know, I suspect we are all one of one, but we are not because of ourselves. I think we are the result of an awful lot of people who care deeply for us in different stages of our lives. And like, if you have parents who care about you, I had a mom who was amazing, grandparents, community. So you're a representative of many. So as one of one as we are, I think we are representatives of many. So I was very conscious of not disrespecting the enormous sacrifice that my grandmother made when she came to Canada and my mother when she came to Canada. It was the sacrifice that these women made to build a life for my family in Toronto, the west side of Toronto. It's different. We like, that's really important to me. And so if I faked it, it would be an affront to the authenticity of these unbelievable women. And so why would I do that, right? So it's not that I had cojones to do any of this stuff. It's just, it was my obligation to my grandmother. My baba is like gangster.
Baba.
Yeah, my baba's a gangster. My mom's a gangster.
You call your mom thug. You're like,
she's a thug. Yeah, she's a thug for sure. She doesn't break the law.
I want Baba's pierogies.
Yeah,
I need that. I don't do cheese, but I do the potato with
I don't do cheese.
Yeah.
So to me, honestly, and maybe this is a bit exhausting about my brain, is that I'm very intentional.
Yes.
I'm intentional about everything.
Yes.
And sometimes I wish I wasn't. Sometimes I wish I could just fucking roll with it. Yeah. But I'm like, no, this has got to be right. Right? It's got to be right. And so I think, and a lot of this is with the benefit of hindsight and getting older and surviving.
Got it.
You can kind of look back at some of your past behaviors and go, why am I? And then I realized, oh yeah, for a lot of this is, I mean, if I went home to my family dinner at Thanksgiving or Christmas and I had been a fake on TV, it would not abide.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I would never, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that was always really important to me was that I represented my family and the immigrant experience, my version of the immigrant experience in Canada. So I think that's how I've always approached it.
Yes.
You know, I've always approached it. Everything from like keeping my last name to, and again, a lot of this I didn't know. I'm just barreling through life. I don't know anything. I'm amazed at how much I thought I knew at 25.
Yes.
Or 27 when I was on Much Music.
Yes.
I look back going, I didn't know anything.
Yes.
I was just learning.
What do you remember yourself at 39? I'm 39.
You're 39.
So if you go back to 39, what's the 39-year-old George?
I don't even I don't even know what year I was 39 in. What year was I don't even know.
You know, it was 11, 12 years ago? Because you're what, 51?
Yeah,
52 now? 51.
So I was at CBC doing the radio, the TV show. Yeah, so I knew that I was sort of done with that show in my brain at that point. I wanted to keep going. But I knew that there was change coming in my mind. I knew there was change coming in my mind. I hate the concept of being wallpaper. And I think if you do a thing for too long, you become wallpaper in that room. And it's not my vibe. I also love adventure. And I got a real sense that, what month is your birthday?
April.
Okay. So
I'm a Taurus.
You're a Taurus. So April of...
I'm sentimental too, man. I'm on the cusp of...
Are you really?
Yeah. Sometimes I believe in some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 72... I don't know what year that was. I was 39. Well, I mean, it would have been 2000. Yeah, so right around April that time, I was probably at Coachella.
Yeah.
In April. Having a good time with my friends.
Yeah.
Because we would have had a break for the hockey playoffs at the time. And I remember that era. Actually, I remember it clearly. That run in my life where I felt like I needed to change something.
Yes.
But I didn't have the courage to really change it.
Yes.
Because I had a good thing going.
Yes.
And I think that's a really strange space to occupy.
Ooh, yes.
When you know, it's like
comfort.
Yeah, you get a sense that, oh, this isn't going to last. It shouldn't last because I don't want it to last as well. But then you start thinking, could a version of it last? Am I just looking at it the wrong way? Am I being impatient? I'm a huge believer in like mega personal accountability.
Yes.
I know the system's not on our side.
Yes.
I know that no one's out there to pave a path for us. I know that.
Yes.
I'm grateful that there are those who do it.
Sure.
But I believe that anything that happens is ultimately up to me, whether or not it is my fault or my creation. If something creates a scenario, I have two options. Complain about it, which could also be valid, or not, and find a way to move. So I'm a big believer in challenging my brain. Go, why do you think that way? Why do you feel it? I don't believe my feelings are right. I don't value my feelings because my feelings are based on chemicals and weird shit and conditioning and unchecked trauma or all this other stuff that we have, right? And I'm like, so why do I put value in something that's so bizarre and so, unfollowable? So what I value is effort. And in my mind, it's like, okay, so I've done the work. I figured out where my brain's at. Now what's the effort I want to employ? So I'm a big believer in that. So around 39, I knew that something was up in me. I could feel it. I could feel that nagging thing. And I knew it then too. I knew it then. And I started to feel it again last year. So you kind of go through these stages in your life where you're like, well, okay.
When you feel that feeling though, what's the course of action? Do you sit with it? Do you evaluate it? Do you say, hey, this is, this is here a few weeks from now. Maybe this is something legit, or maybe this is fleeting.
Sometimes I let it sit for a year. Wow. Sometimes I let it sit for a year because I'm measured, right?
Yes.
And I want to be measured. I'm a young, angry kid in my mind still.
Yeah.
If you grow up a young, angry boy, slightly disenfranchised or whatever it is. I grew up in neighborhoods that were a little bit compromised. Yes. Beautiful neighborhoods. I love them. Yes. But as you look back now, you go, it's a little abandoned.
I want to ask you about that because if you go back to Rexdale, you posted something on your Instagram, which I really liked. And you said, look, this is the seniors home that my mom used to, basically drop me off at and say, go keep these people company. Yep. And you said, I think that's kind of when I started my career of interviewing. Right? At 7 to 10 years old. Not knowing that. There's a great book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely, but it's kind of a different spin where it says, hey, look, when you study people who have done great work, and your body of work is, it's iconic, man, and much respect. When you really unravel the onion and reverse engineer, they got this, I always say they got this just beast mode deep down that's really fueled them. So would you say that your enemy at a young age might have been just you're disenfranchised and growing up, and did you take that and say, I'm going to make a mission out of this?
Never thought about it. I'm sorry, never put a name to it. I didn't know. I knew that I knew then that I didn't trust the government, that I didn't trust the police, that I didn't trust judges, that I didn't trust the church, that I didn't trust companies. I knew that then because I listened to, I try to be a very accommodating fella in my life, but I am very clear about this. I listened to good music. I was introduced to good music. Yes. And I'm grateful that when I was the turn of the 70s into the 80s, I liked The Clash and the Sex Pistols and punk and Slayer and Metallica, and I liked Public Enemy. Public Enemy and Bob Dylan really kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And of course The Clash did. I loved all that kinds of hair metal in the 80s. I loved all that stuff. But at my core was this idea of outsider mentality. So I have outsider mentality. And no matter how much I was part of the mainstream, I have outsider mentality. And I don't think you can ever shake that. But I was too young to know what that was. So all I did was just rebel. I was raised in a very religious home. It's a very churchy home. It didn't take, right? I listened, but it was a part of my brain. It's still a part of my deep subconscious. If that's been implanted in you for every step of your life, you never shake it. And I value that experience now that I have that in the back of my brain. But I always felt I wasn't really a part of this thing. I think working stupid. I think participating in the way we're forced to in this system is stupid. I think it's not designed to take care of each other. I think that, and I'm not like that guy who says the powers that be want to keep it, but they kind of do. And the powers that be aren't some nefarious, no-named people. It's the institutions.
Yes.
It's a bunch of rich people who want, like, I mean wealthy.
Yeah.
I don't mean rich. I mean the wealthy, right?
Oh, yeah.
They want
1%.
they want even like the 0.1 of them.
Yeah. 0.00.
Yeah, like they're the ones, and I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, right? That's why they use all these phrases of the day, whatever they are, to keep us fighting each other. Like I knew that
100%.
then, and I think I knew that because my Uncle Paul was an amazing reader and used to introduce me to ideas and philosophy when I was 8, 9, 10. Punk rock that I was listening to and the metal I was listening to made me like not value the system or the society. And then you just grow up in neighborhoods where you may not know what it is that is happening, but you know something is happening. Why is everybody so broke?
Yeah.
Why no matter how hard do you work, there's a great line from Bruce Springsteen in a song called Atlantic City, and this lyric hit me hard then and it stays with me. Got the kind of debts no honest man can pay. And you hear that when you're young and you know that families are cutting up credit cards and then you look at, and then your friends get arrested for some bullshit and rich people don't. Like, I understand as you get older, there's a lot more nuance to it, but when you're young, these are like these canon moments for you, right?
Yeah.
And so it was all there. I didn't really figure it out until I started going on the radio and I started to have to talk for a living. So when you're speaking and you're becoming conscientious of the words and the order in which you put them, that's when they start to really hit and you go, oh, I'm unlocking some anger in me. And the anger, I have this thing that it's like, how do you take this thing that you have when you're young? And again, if you're like my era, Gen X-y kind of angry guy, you know this. It's a particular kind of thing. If you got that thing in you, how do you get it to, it starts from your heart. How do you get it to start from your brain? Right? And that's the big shift I needed to make. So I shifted from here to, this was the fuel source, not the engine. This is the engine.
I call it intellectual madness. I mean, you had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Maya Angelou.
In her home.
And beautiful. Yeah. And she said, which she's really tall, right? Isn't she like 6 feet or something? Like,
she was 6 feet, right? She was pretty tall, yeah.
But she said, listen.
I mean, she was intellectually and spiritually enormous.
Yeah.
So tall.
Yeah. But you look at what she said and she says, look, she's like, I don't believe in having any like rage inside or letting that spoil upon inside you. But she said, don't ever mess with me, in the sense that she's like, I always have readiness to rage. Interesting.
Remember what Zach from Rage Against the Machine said? Ooh. Anger is a gift.
Ooh.
Anger is a gift. How you apply it is the art.
Right. So in our house, I said, look, and I really connect with you on your mom, because for me, my enemy was, I was raised by a single mom.
Yeah. Same.
And I remember just not having a dad, and that was a big thing, playing sports and stuff like that. And I always used to say, I'm like, damn, like I look at the chairs on like awards night or, go down the block and I'm like, nobody's throwing the ball with me. Like, where's my dad? Yeah. And I lost my mom when I was 13.
Oh man.
And I think it's the worst thing possible that a human can ever go through.
You're never going to be the same.
And so I remember that day clearly, and I said, Ryan, you're at an intersection and you didn't know you're coming here, but you go down path A, you could go down to prison and get in trouble and go all that crap, or you can make this your enemy and literally dominate this for the rest of your life. And I can tell you, my motivation is still that 13-year-old little boy that lost his mom. And now I bring that into my parenting. And so in our house, we have one rule. And I said, do we bully people? No. And I said, do we get bullied? No. And that's a very clear, line in the sand. So for you saying, hey, I'm not going to go throw hands at somebody.
No.
But I'm going to intellectually come.
Not now. Yeah. Too old to throw. My hands are so broken and arthritic. I've thrown so many punches in my youth that my hands they don't close. Right, my hands are so busted. And I haven't thrown a punch in a long time. But
good.
I never found myself to be particularly intellectual. I'm not educated.
Sure.
I'm not any of that. But what I aspire to be is a very compassionate, empathetic weapon. I'm a weapon. So in a good way, for hopefully. And I think a lot of people, I remember being at an uprising once, and I said to somebody, I can do things you can't do because I'm a white guy and I'm going to get away with stuff that you can't get away with.
Yeah.
So I said, so I'm your weapon, point me.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to go off?
Ooh.
And I didn't mean that physically. I meant that
Sure.
where do you want me to use whatever I have in the moment
Sure.
to make change?
Sure.
So I've never found, I've only ever, and I know it sounds so bullshitty when you, I watch clips online when you hear people say stuff like this, and especially we live in an era now where everybody's a motivational thing, and I'm not
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I am not. I am carve your fucking path, right?
Yeah.
But
There's some cliches that are true though.
100%, 100%. I'm in that David Goggins feed, and there are things David Goggins says, and I'm like, that's me.
Yeah.
I take souls. That's me,
Yeah.
right? But I do believe when you're young, you're figuring stuff out, and you kind of just gotta hope you get lucky.
Sure.
That the grace of others weighs in your favor.
Sure.
You don't cross a line you can't walk back from, and you are feeding positive thoughts into your head. When you get to a certain age, when you are maybe a little more removed from that younger cat, then you're like, okay, so what are the lessons I've learned, and how can I make it a little bit easier for the one who comes after me, right? That's where that's what my big shift was. I don't have anxiety. I don't have self-doubt. I don't have fear. I don't have almost any of it. It's not like I believe in myself. I don't care about myself. I actually think that this whole experience for me is about, what do you want? Are you willing to do the things required in your era to get what you want? It is no more complicated than that. Now, everybody has a different story, a different path, different obstacles. I'm not saying it's the same. Yeah. I'm not saying you can do it, because I don't think that's life.
Sure.
It's what you can do is control effort.
Yes.
And that is it. That is it.
Yes.
I put lots of effort into things that work and lots of effort into things that don't work.
Yes.
So what I don't ever want to be is the guy that thinks I've done anything, because I don't actually feel that way. I don't even have a sense of pride at all about, somebody interviewed me once to ask me if I was proud of my career. And I'm like, no, why would I be? I'm not proud of anything in my job. Because I don't think there's ever stasis, right? You're always aspiring and working towards being the version of you want to be. And there's this guy that you say you are, and then there's this guy that you are, right? So I had a long time where this was the guy that I said and thought I was, and then I looked at my behavior and I went, but this is the guy I am. And so most people, what they do is they take this guy and move him here. And I took this guy and moved him here. But it took a lot of work.
But before any movement, this is a very dark place to be sometimes when you have that realization.
It is.
That little line in between.
It is. But if the gulf is big, it's a big thing. But I would
always, in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
Look in the mirror.
Yeah. And then you sit back and go, okay, so what do you want to be?
Sure.
What do you really want to do?
Sure.
So when people succeed, they act like they did it.
Yeah.
And when they fail, they act like it's not their fault. Right? Even though I don't think failure is a real thing.
Yes.
But I think that life for me, and again, this is not for anybody, but for me, life is simply about how much effort will I put into getting closer to the thing I want, regardless of the obstacles in my way or the clear path.
Yeah.
So I think when I was young, I became very aware of the fact, my mom said this to me a long time ago, the cavalry ain't coming. It doesn't matter what, she could tell I was angry at the system. I would write letters to the government when I was 12. Like, I was 12, right?
Yeah.
So I watch people now getting all mad at the government. I'm like I was 12 writing letters to the government.
What do you think of the phrase though? You know, one of my favorite phrases is only the paranoid survive. Yeah. Because there's a certain paranoia that I have. Okay, for example, if you take, this is what I believe. Now, I know you're not religious or anything, but I believe that, I
believe in Aretha Franklin.
That's
what I believe in. Yeah.
But you take the year you're born, right? And you go to any gravestone and
Yeah.
you got that dash, and then it's the year that, you move on. That dash is your life.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's something that happens at the end that says, okay, Strombo, George, I got 2 monitors here. So I'm going to play the life you lived, and then I'm going to play the life that I had vision for you.
Yeah.
Here's where the horror movie begins.
Yeah.
Right? You look at the monitor and say, I didn't come even close to what was presented out there for me. I mean, that's terrible. Kobe Bryant's or Michael Jordan's trainer, Tim Grover said, everybody says, look at the cost of success. What's the cost of winning? He says, well, wait till you get the bill of regret. Right? So there's a kill switch for me that I always think about, whoa, wherever you're going down in your brain, like, come back here. This is serious business.
I could never have imagined my life would be as fun as it is. I could never have imagined.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that my movie won't be a horror. My movie will be a comedy.
Oh.
Because because I am so grateful but I made hard choices. And I don't like, because I told you, like, I'm very intentional about language.
You made hard choices.
I made hard choices.
Have you heard the quote, easy choices, hard life, hard choices, easy life?
I've heard that. There's value in that.
So you're saying you made the hard choices.
Well, but I'll do this one twist to that.
Sure.
And this is the thing that I reject about internet language.
Okay.
Not that that's it.
Sure.
People talk about sacrifices. These are not sacrifices. These are investments. Sacrifices are when you do things for nothing. Ooh. You do them because they're the right thing to do for nothing.
Sure.
We live in this weird culture, and men especially, because some people will not want to hear this, but
say it.
We got a lot of people who don't know what a male brain is like, who don't have our unique experiences, right? Weighing in. And there's value in hearing other opinions. But we are so easily manipulated by guys who speak to our brute sense, the lion inside us. Yeah. Right? But they often speak to the lion inside of us that attacks. They don't speak to the lion inside of us that just quietly sits back and makes sure everybody's okay. Ooh. So I get in all those algorithms, right, where I'm watching all this crazy shit online, toxic shit. Some of it's really positive because you never know what's going to land with somebody. But one thing that happens all the time is that sometimes, not all the time, a lot of times on socials, we get fed this martyr complex. You know, everybody's against you. You got to go. Like, that's not the way this should be. I actually think that the most beautiful thing about our brain chemistry is and our physicality is we have to be there to make it easier for people, not make it harder for people. So for me, this life is, even though I've chosen a life and made the sacrifice, not the investments, the hard choices to be mostly solitary in this life. Yes. I like it. And I don't complain about it. I made my choices.
Now, are you solitary because you're saying I'm protecting my energy? Like
no. I just don't want to be hassled.
Well, but how many people do you know out in the world that they're, you know, grandma, their mom, cousins, exes, boyfriends, husbands, like just draining them of energy, creativity?
I'm just so grateful. My family, I'm a better man because of my family. Yeah. I'm a better man because of my friends. I'm the least interesting person in my group. My friends are my best friends are my heroes, and no word of a lie. My family are my heroes. We don't agree on everything politically, socially, culturally, but it doesn't matter. We definitely have our fights at the tables, but it's always it starts from and ends with a place of love. I am so grateful that my circle has never been the drain. My circle has, you raised by, you did it. I did. I raised by a single mom.
Yes.
The work ethic and the resolve that my mother has, the resolve.
My mom's my hero.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I used to get up in the morning at 5 a.m. with my mom and help her. She had 3 jobs.
Yep.
Like we were broke, right?
Yep. One
of her jobs was delivering newspapers before she went to her job because an extra $6 a week, right? If you're feeding your family on $30, $40 a month, right? $6 over 4 weeks, that's half the bill, right? Yep. So we'd put newspapers together, and my mother would say to me, "Yeah, it's too bad it's this challenging, but it's okay. It's okay." My mother it really instilled in me dignity. The dignity of work, and the dignity of it. And so they've been the opposite of a drain. I'm not this guy without them. Like I'm not this guy my family put no pressure on me. There's no pressure in my family for anybody to achieve anything except be a good person. My mom didn't care what I did for a living. I don't think she still doesn't care. My mom doesn't have a cell phone. She's like.
Well, you described your mom as the wilderness.
You
said legit that you had random people throughout the course of your life come up and say, "Hey, I know your mom."
Yeah.
And is it true that literally there was a homeless person she took in and kind of tried to help him out a bit? You didn't really know that.
She'll be mad at me for sharing stories, so I will dodge that.
Okay.
But I will say this: there are more than 5 occasions where I will get messages from people.
Sure.
Who either she took them in or other people she knows. They know. Other people they know. Wow. Strangers. Yeah, my mom, so like I said, my mom has a very strong faith.
Sure.
And I have much criticism of the application of people's faith in politics.
Sure.
There are a lot of people who claim to be Christians or claim to be Muslims. And I watch behavior and I go, that doesn't line up.
Yeah.
I can say unequivocally, that my mother's actions are 100% aligned with her values. And so she's living the social gospel. And that's cool. So whenever we battle, I'm always just like, yeah, but you're living it.
Yeah.
Like my mom lives it. I have I have many character flaws, but one of my great character flaws is my disdain for overt hypocrisy.
Oh.
I hate it.
Oh.
I hate it in government.
Yeah.
I hate it in religion.
Yes.
Because government and religion are the two big forces
Yes.
that dominate much of what happens in this world.
Yes.
So if you're going to talk this game, you better be this game.
Wow.
And so I have no time for that level of institutional hypocrisy.
I want to ask you, okay.
And so my mom doesn't have that. So that's why I call her the wilderness, because she's out there.
I just love it.
I can't.
I just love it.
Dude, I can't get a hold of her. I'll be home. I won't be back in Toronto for a couple months.
Yeah.
I'll holler at my mom and she'll be like, oh, Bucky, I'm too busy right now. Yeah. Like my mom is harder to reach. She doesn't have a cell phone.
And she calls you Bucky, right?
She calls me Bucky.
Where's Bucky come from?
She read a book called Call of the Wild by Jack London. It was about there was a big Saint Bernard, a dog called Buck, and the dog had big brown eyes.
That's adorable.
So she looked at my eyes and said I had these puppy dog eyes, and that's how I became Buck. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. She still called me Bucky. Yeah.
Okay. You're in Canada.
Yeah.
You come over to LA. Well, what's the main differences that you see? Now, and I want to kind of preface this question with, we drove over and the CBS officer says, oh, you're coming from that place.
Yeah.
And he puts his hand on his gun and says, I'm happy that I live here.
Yeah.
And I get to protect myself.
Yeah.
The nicest guy ever. And it was just, my wife and I were looking at each other, and this is our first, we're like, okay. We're like, wow.
Oh my God.
So cool. Nice guy and everything. But
that was unnecessary.
well,
It's just kind of like what he's saying.
I mean,
you know what he's saying there. You guys can't protect yourself.
Yeah, like it was this political thing right off the hop. And and if you've seen the guy, like his context, everything was great. It was nice. It was friendly. He's kind of joking with my son, because my son's like, "What's Daddy? What's going on here?" I'm like, don't worry, son. But I thought, okay. But when we come over here, I always say, I'm walking down the street. I've had the most amazing random conversations.
Yeah.
I find the people here, they got a lot of personality. There's lots of smiles. One thing I can say about living in Canada now and feel is that sometimes you literally walk down the street and we just don't talk. We just don't talk. Where here, I can't get a coffee without somebody being like, yeah, so...
Don't you live in also a friendly part of Canada? Like, I grew up in
do.
Toronto. No one talked to you. You were growing up.
Yeah. So why was this a career move coming to LA? Was it
I came here in 1989 when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
I hopped in a car and I drove down to Los Angeles because Neil Young did, because the movies I liked were here, the music I liked. If you think about 1989, 1990, you had NWA and the Posse had come out, but also you had Jane's Addiction.
Yep.
You had the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yes.
You had the legacy of Neil Young. You had Dennis Hopper, and even though he went to Taos, but you had this thing. There was this spark of creativity coming from Los Angeles at the time. LA is really difficult to explain to people because it's you can see remnants of the LA that we were drawn to still here. There aren't as many of them, but there's definitely that shadow of the blast. You can see it. I came down here because I was drawn by the creativity of this place and also the absolute madness of this place. And I, for whatever reason, I am wired to really enjoy chaos. Chaos and me get along I'm very calm.
Yeah.
I'm very calm inside, but when shit's going on around me, I'm all right. So LA is chaotic. And I came here, Toronto was very different back then.
Sure.
I love Toronto. Toronto will always be my home. Toronto is growing for sure. Toronto, I have problems with Toronto because I think that the city councils and the premiers and the governments and the developers have made Toronto a city that it's not going to be a great city for creative people over time. It still isn't now. No one can afford rent. If you're poor, it's a hard city to be in. I don't like what they've done, but that's true of lots of cities, right? Lots of cities. It's happening here. But LA is, and this will never be home. Toronto was always run from, right? But I feel good here.
Yeah.
Because this is where, if you want to get stuff made, this is where you got to come. Because but this place also is, there's an independent spirit here that is very different from any place I've experienced in North America. I've been lucky enough I lived in BC, I lived in Toronto, I lived in New York. They all have their things that are wonderful and challenging everywhere. But the independent spirit here is different than, I'm not saying better, different than any place I've experienced. Here, I could call up anybody on any given night and say, hey, I'm working on a thing. Can I get your brain on it?
Dang.
And there's, and it's just a different vibe.
Yeah.
You can get that in any city, of course. And I'm not saying you can't, but there are a lot of people here who came here to make a thing happen.
Yes.
And it's a big leap to leave your family and go to another place.
Massive.
To chase a thing.
Massive.
I love that. I respect those people. I respect it. I'll go back home sometimes. People go, oh, LA, it's a dream where dreams go to die and people are failures there. And I'm always like, yeah, but they tried.
You
stayed home.
It is the ultimate growth hack. I mean, we talk about storytelling a lot, right? Because I own a media company and a media marketing. And people say, well, how do you become a better storyteller? And I always say, go live more life.
Yeah.
You know, because you can only read so many books and regurgitate somebody else's story.
Yeah.
But when you start talking to somebody, they realize really quick that you're just kind of quoting a book.
Yeah.
Where they're not seeing it through your lens.
Totally.
Now you are the definition of let's go live more life.
I've lived a lot of life. I've been so lucky.
I mean, you don't need any books around you.
No.
I'll just tell you a couple memories.
There are times, man, when I wake up where I say, I'm about to do 2 nights ago. No, what day is today? Sunday? So a couple nights ago, Friday night, it was 12:30 at night, but I didn't know that. I've been in the studio since 7 a.m.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, all right, I can probably, I think I can I got a lot of energy. Maybe I'll go out. I'm good. And I looked at my watch and it's like, it's 12:30. Oh, I guess I'm going to bed. So I
guess I'm going to bed.
Yeah, I got out of bed and I just thought, I just a little part of me that wishes I could just stop working and just not do this anymore because I've done this for so long and I don't know if this pace is healthy, but I've done this pace for 32 years. So I don't know. So there's a little part of me, I used to live in the woods in Topanga here and I want to get a place back there with rescue horses. And when I lived in the woods, I ride my motorcycle up this canyon road. I park, I had German Shepherds that were there and I would sit outside and I would like barbecue a vegan burger and I would sit outside and I wouldn't do anything for 3 days. And I don't think I've ever felt better. So there's a part of me that wishes I could do that again because now I want to process some of the experiences that I've had. I'm so grateful that my brain chemistry didn't betray me. I'm so grateful that the people in my life were so lovely. I'm so grateful that the world is so exciting and bizarre. And I loved, that's why I started my own show on YouTube now. It's same because I work with Apple, but I've worked with all the broadcasters. I don't want to. I finished the game. I finished that game in Canada. I don't want to do that really. I want to partner with people, but honestly, I'd rather just do this. This to me is way more exciting
100%.
Than the way it used to be. And I was on the first internet radio station in Canada in 1996, before anybody knew who I was. Me and my friend Bob, my friend Jeff were part of this other internet startup.
Yes.
Like in the early 90s.
What did you call, what was that called?
Virtually Canadian.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was real, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're just an OG. One thing I noticed though, you come in here right away, and have you always been this way where you're not just the face, like the talent, like you know the mics, you're like, I got OBS,
I built
software, like producing, like have you always known all aspects?
The show that I do now online, I built the studio. Okay. You know, and the stuff I don't know, I just look it up. Yeah. I like to make things.
Yeah.
In my core, I just make things.
But you're curious. Yeah. Like you came in and you're asking.
Yeah.
You're asking our man there.
Technical
hey,
questions,
what are you using? Like show me what you got. Show me what you're set up on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big believer that for people who are on camera, you got to be whoever you want. You are. But I'm not the face of a thing.
Sure.
I'm the thing.
Sure.
I try to be the thing. I'm the steward of the conversation. Yeah. So for me to be the steward of the conversation, I want to understand how the whole thing works. I don't want to just sit here. I need to be in absolute comfort in my spot. And so I want to know how to, but also I just like stuff. Like I've spent the last, honestly, month since I got back from holidays in Toronto, building, unplugging the whole studio, reworking all the cameras, rewiring it. Step by step until I get it exactly right. And so now when I sit on camera, and I just did this interview with an author that I love, Naomi Klein. It's a very controversial conversation.
Yes.
But I sat in this room that I built.
Yes.
And I felt good that I understood how everything worked, that I didn't have to rely on anybody. I really want to be independent. So I have a small team that I work with, and I love working that small team. But the key factor for all the three of us on this team is we are independent.
Yes.
And so if you don't know how to do it all, then you can't do it all.
You're a relationship curator though. Like hearing people talk about you and with you, like you really build great relationships. And I know it might seem like a mundane question, but How did you learn how to do that? Just really create those human connections. Because you can tell some people you talk to and you're like, you know, maybe a colleague, maybe somebody you ran in. Right? And there's some people you're like generally, hey, you know, George, thanks so much for being a part of my life for 20 years. I really appreciate it. I can't remember the lady's name, but she owns a PR company. NPR.
NPR.
And so the way she was talking to you is just like, oh my God, George, you know, you've been a part of my journey for the last 20 years.
I just care about people. I just care. And I know it sounds so silly, but it's actually a thing. And I work. Yeah, I care about people. And I genuinely care about your experience. What I want as a practice in my life is, and it's not, I have not always done this right. I'm not mad at myself for not getting it right either, because it's life. We're not robots, right? We have this bizarre, weird experience. Is I don't ever want people to be self-conscious when they interact with me. Ever.
Ooh, love that.
Like, I don't need people to like me. I don't need them to agree with me. I don't need any of that. I don't need validation from anybody. I'm very lucky that validation comes from within.
Yes.
I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I want you to like me, but I don't need it.
Yes.
Like, if I live my life according to my game and people don't respond to it, okay. Then I'm not the guy for the times. But I've been lucky enough for the last 32 years to be able to do this, because I think people realize over time, look, there are people who watch me and go, I hate that guy. I hate that guy. He comes across as this or that, and that's fine. I'm not those things. But if that's how I present, that's okay. I don't need people to, I don't need that. But what I do want to make sure is that, agree or disagree, that you're not self-conscious about your experience with me. And I don't think I don't think there's any value in that. And I had a meeting the other day about a project we were working on, and it was a little contested because we were bringing up controversial ideas of how do we move the ball forward here? How do we do this? And I said to them, because I was kind of the boss of it, and I said, here's my goal. What's my actual goal? If you just strip all the TV bullshit away, all the stuff away, all the social media influence, likes, followers away. What is your actual goal as a person? And my actual goal as a person is to move the conversation forward to a place where we can work together. Not agree, but work together. Because that's compromise, that's democracy, blah, blah, blah. Right? So if that's true, which it is true for me, it has to be a part of my everyday. So my actual goal is, if I make you self-conscious in a scenario, you're going to feel a little less comfortable, a little less confident. Why would I do that? What is so I can look better? That's stupid to me. I think that's so dumb. And I think I watch a lot of cats on who broadcast, and they just seem to get off on punching down. Like, why would you do to prove you're smart? You're already here. All the things you want out of this life, you already have. Now you want to take dignity from somebody? That to me is like the wackest kind of person. And that's the enemy. The enemy are those people who, it's not about unite versus divide, because we're never going to be united. That's anybody who says, can't we all get along? I forget who said the quote, but there's a quote that I read. I think about it all the time, but I forgot the name of the person who said it. But every document of humanity is a document of barbarism, right? So what do we think this is going to be? But we try to move the ball forward. So that's my whole goal. And I don't want to make anybody self-conscious. Sometimes they will, because you're having a debate about an issue. But I think there's a real art to talking about difficult things in ways that not bring people together, but don't further divide. I think that's important, at least for me.
How do you punch through the noise online now? You know, it's really interesting because I don't come from a broadcasting background. I used to go on TV as like a marketing expert where a new iPhone drops or whatever. So I just do little segment clips. You know, and then I said, man, I really like this, you know? And my mom always said, Ryan, you're going to be a professional athlete, a lawyer, or a business person, and entrepreneur through and through. And then I said, oh my God, you know, I started doing these, and I said, I really want to make I want to make this a project. And so 217 episodes later, let's do it. And I said, I just want to talk to some of the best minds in the world. Didn't have a plan. I'm like, I don't know, I'm just going to start DMing. We're going to start getting some action going. And then I said, okay, well, you know, you really want to help people get to a certain level, but you also need to get eyeballs. You need to grow your audience. You need to grow your show. And so I don't want to be a shock jock. But then you notice, okay, hey man, you're going to entertain, you're going to educate, you're going to inform. Where do you see that, I guess, that slippery slope of saying, hey, you know, you're growing your audience, but be careful how you're kind of growing that audience, because you've got a lot of experience with that.
I'm working on a new YouTube thing on my YouTube channel, right? And some of the stuff we post gets really big numbers.
Yes.
Some of the stuff we post doesn't.
Yes.
I look at the stuff that doesn't, and I try to figure out why I think it didn't land.
Is it more positive? Does negativity get more?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Definitely misinformation. I think if you look at the neuroscience of it, misinformation and negativity travels 6 times faster
Yes.
than positivity
Yes.
or truth. But what also travels fast is inspiration.
Yes.
Very fast.
Yes.
So I don't subscribe to you have to be grim to be successful, despite what the internet shows us, right? But no, so I identify why something maybe doesn't work the way I wanted to. And then I look at it and go, did I do everything I could do? We did everything we could do, and it just, the audience wasn't there at this moment. And I just think, that's okay. Because I have this really unpopular philosophy, which is the opposite of what everybody does in this line of work, which is I believe in every child left behind but one. I'm not trying to make something for the masses. I'm trying to make the thing that will take the one kid and make them feel less alone and make them feel inspired to go out and do the thing. Because all the music I grew up listening to wasn't for the masses. It was really fringe. And but
yes,
when I meet people who grew up listening to that stuff, we're all doing things. Because we were born in this flame. So our new show that we're doing, like I said, some of it cuts through, some of it doesn't, but I believe in the long game. I believe in values. I believe in the library, right? And I believe that sometimes, I looked the other day, it happened just not that long ago when the whole Britney Spears thing was going on, right? An interview clip I did with her 20 years ago started blowing up, right? That same interview clip, by the way, Britney stans used to give me hell for, because how dare I act like she wasn't 100% in charge. But I knew I was right because I saw what was going on in her life, right? Sorry, sir. I saw what was going on. But Britney stans were not ready for the truth back then. Because they didn't have the knowledge. And it's not their fault. But in the last year, that interview started to go around. And then people are DMing me going, oh, it's like you saw something. And I was like, well, I did because I was there in the room. But moreover, it's because I genuinely cared about her. You know, so what I realized with some clips is that some things, it's you did them. It's just ain't their time yet. And some things you just got wrong. So I got lots of shit wrong. There's lots of stuff I said in interviews or things I did where I like, oh, I'm not that guy anymore. I wouldn't do that anymore. You know, I wouldn't do that anymore. But I also realized that sometimes if you lead with your heart and your brain and you get them working together and you actually care about people, it will land with somebody. It will land with somebody. And that's what I'm at. So I'm not trying to get likes. I want eyeballs. I'll tell the audience clearly. I don't want to sell you stuff. I don't want to. But I want you to tell your friends to watch this, because then I could get some sponsor to pay for it, so I don't have to ask you for money. Right? And I don't. I love the Patreon stuff. I think it's really neat how the audience is paying for their things. I think that's cool, right? Because nothing is free. I laugh when people complain about how come there's a paywall on that. I'm like, well, what do you think? It's free? Well, why don't
it takes time? It takes resources.
Like, why don't you go to work for free? You know, like things cost money. But I don't want to do that at this stage. So I love the fact that I'm very upfront. I want eyeballs. I want lots of people to watch. I want lots of people to share. I trust my intentions and my values. It may not work for everybody, and that's okay. That's okay. So this, I think, you know, cats who do what you and I do on camera and on mic, sometimes we can get a little lost in why we're doing it and what we expect out of it. If you want the biggest audience, then you got to do shit that the biggest audience wants. You know, I don't want to do that.
I think for me, it's the beast inside where, you know, for the longest time I said to my wife, I said, look, honey, it's just a passion project.
You're lying to her, by the way.
You're
lying to her.
It's just a passion project.
Whether or not you knew it.
And then, you know, I had my main business, and I'm like, I just find my head and spirit just going back to, I'm like, I just fucking love talking to people and just exploring and sitting, you know, back and saying, how can I wrap this piece of content out that, you know, I used to do the whole like, hey, you know, welcome to, nobody gives a shit about that. Man, you got 3 seconds, get into it, like, and call it a day.
This is about expression.
It's an art. It's a complete art.
And I find the people who are the happiest are the ones who have a really strong relationship with their ability to express themselves.
100%.
And 100%. This is really important to do, not just because of this. This is like whatever. What is important is that your subconscious hears you say things. Listen, I'm not religious. You know this, right?
And you don't like cliches, but there's some good.
There's some coming. There's one coming. that
George is getting emotional. He's
I heard
getting into that emotional.
I heard
age.
a pastor say once in that when in my youth, my mom was dragging me to church after church after church. This one pastor said something that really hit me, which was, God said, let there be light.
Yeah.
That's how the book starts, right? In the beginning, there was nothing.
Yeah.
God said, let there be light.
Yeah.
And there was light.
Yeah.
And the pastor, his opinion was, I'm quoting God, which I don't believe in, but you know what I'm saying? The idea was that he didn't have to say, let there be light.
Sure.
He could have just turned the lights on.
Yes.
But the act of saying,
Yeah.
making it a real statement, and then it happened, was the delivering of the promise.
Sure.
That hit me.
Sure.
Which was that the act of saying positive things and important things and challenging things puts it into your subconscious. That's how your brain works. That's the neuroscience.
Sure.
So, and which is all I really focus on. And I love how the proliferation of conversations and podcasts and clips, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful because it's expressing.
Yes.
And I think that's really, really, really lovely.
Well, and I like it too because unlike TV where it's sound bites.
Yeah.
I can chop it up with you for an hour, and sure, people can take 20 seconds and clip it out, but I'm like, go watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
You got to watch the whole context of what the conversation was about.
I play the 3-second game, like we got only 3 seconds.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
this is where I'm a little different, if not from you, but in general,
Sure.
is that I will only meet the audience halfway.
Ooh,
and that's what's different about this era.
Yes.
This era, it's the audience is all about what do I get, what do I get, what do I get? And that's cool. But I will only meet you halfway because it is your job to meet me halfway. I ran into this during after this is a sidebar.
Please, everybody listening,
but
replay what you just said. That is huge, man.
I got a lot of grief for this, but I stand by my after the murder of George Floyd happened by the police. I started posting on my Instagram a bunch of pictures, and I would put the name of the person. It was all like leading black figures around the world in different fields.
Sure.
I was just trying to, because I've been in the media a long time. I've seen how some of this stuff plays out. So I just posted them and I just put names and I put no information about the person. And I got a lot of people saying, you got to tell us more about who they are or we won't know. And my response was, Google it.
Dang.
I will only meet you halfway on this. Because if it's just about coming towards you, I don't think people's brains make the effort, and I value effort. So I'm not designed to be for 10 million people.
Yeah.
Maybe we will get there.
Yeah.
I actually think we will, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'm not designed I'm not playing the game for the mass because I don't think there's value in it for me. So I will only meet you halfway because I hear people now going, oh, everybody's lost the ability to critical think. I'm like, well, what do you think that is?
Yeah, you're being spoon-fed.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you're being spoon-fed.
If you don't practice the muscle, rehearse it, work it. If you don't do that, they will take it away from you because they don't want you to have it. And they are corporations. Governments are not really the problem.
Sure.
They are the problem in that they work, they have decided a long time ago, but I think it's because the system was built that way. They work mostly on behalf of corporations and a little bit on behalf of us. We just need to switch that, right? Because we got sold a lie and everybody bought the lie. But the critical thinking thing, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
People complain all the time to me about journalism, right?
Sure.
Oh, the media is this, the media is this. So I say to them, all right, cool. Let's go get that whatever app you use to monitor your spending, right? How many entertainment subscriptions do you have? How many journalism subscriptions do you have? You get the world you make.
Yes.
So if you ain't paying for good news or journalism, you don't get mad that there is no good news in journalism, unless you think it's so important the government should fund it with your taxpayer dollars. Now, what do you want?
Yes.
Life's about that. So I think the only power a human being has in this busted world is how you spend your money.
Yes.
That's the only real power. I'm talking systemically, right?
Don't get me started.
You know? So I will play the eyeball game because I like things that people like.
Sure.
So I will definitely play the eyeball game, but I won't just play the eyeball game.
Yes.
Because it isn't just about eyeballs. There's this epidemic of loneliness out there. People feel disconnected and busted. People have to double down on their opinions, even if they might start to think they're wrong, because they're afraid to now publicly say, well, maybe I was wrong. Nobody wants to walk back their points of view. There's all this, we've created this entrenched space where you're over there and you're over there and you're over there, and nobody wants to go, yeah, maybe that's wrong. But we know in our friend group that happens. So because that's not the kind of stuff that works in the algorithm. So I want to create places that we can go, but not everybody wants to do that. And they will throw their darts at us they'll also throw their laurels at us.
But
and I'm okay with
But
that.
you know what though? You're not a nice guy. You're a good man.
I think there's a big difference.
There's a big difference on that.
I
And
hope I'm nice, but I know what you mean.
yeah, but nice guys are dangerous to me because nice guys, like if I asked you, like for example, if I ask you one question and I ask you on Sunday and you give me your answer, then I ask you on Tuesday and somebody asks you give me a different answer.
Yeah.
Like you waver. Like nice guys, it's like they sit on the fence.
Yeah.
Always trying to please everybody. Always trying to like there's no concrete in that.
I'm not good.
They blow with the wind.
I'm not good at, and you know this personally from me, I where I'm not a nice guy is I don't respond to messages all the time. I don't read. I read them.
Well, yeah,
I don't get back. Like, so I'm not like that guy. I'm not the smiley. I'm not that guy for sure. But no, but I care about you. I care about you. I care about, like, I actually do. And I don't give a shit what happens with my life in the end because I've had a wonderful run. I'm so lucky.
I mean, the first time I messaged you, it's got to be over a year ago, if not a couple. It was really random. And I think you followed me for a while.
Did I?
I think you followed me a long time ago. And then I messaged you and I said, let's do the show. And then it's like, you're like, where do you want to do it?
Did I write you back?
That was it. Yeah, you wrote me back and that was it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he's off on an island again.
Yeah,
and then, 8 months later, George, like, let's do this.
Yeah,
you're like, well, man, where do you want to do it? And then this time I'm like, okay, I'm coming to LA, man.
Yeah.
If this guy's here, I gotta buckle this in.
There are people.
And then I get focused. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Because either give me the no. I'm somebody that, people duck and just kind of run.
Yeah.
Like, just tell me no.
Yeah.
Once you tell me no, I give you respect. No problem, man. But if I don't hear that no, I'm coming. Consistently.
There are people in my life that are annoyed at how non-communicative I am, but
that's okay though.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's
and
okay.
I get it. It's annoying.
That's okay.
But this, as I say to them, part of the reason you like me,
is
the factors that make me who I am, are also part of the reasons you don't like me. And this is the game. The game is that I am hyper present. As best I can be anyway. And I care deeply about you, but I got shit going on. And one of the things I hate the most about, there used to be just if somebody had your number, they could call you. But now there's 7 ways people can message you. But we live in an era where everybody has, and I'm not talking about the public, but just in general, like it's like
access.
I'm not. I'm not working from my phone.
Sure.
I mean, I am technically because I do a show at Apple, but I'm not working for my phone. And there are people, you didn't get back to me. Like, yeah, I got shit going on. You know what I did? I went to bed, right? And that happens. So for me, you got to that's annoying for people. I totally acknowledge that. People got to kind of stay on me to get me to do something. Also, I'm very untrusting of the podcasts. I don't, because most people are clout chasers and they want to, and I don't trust clip culture. And because I'm the kind of guy that I know how not to get in trouble, but I want to get in trouble. So I walk that line. I don't want to get in trouble, but you know what I mean.
But you know the line.
I know the line.
You know the line.
Well, because I stand by my values.
So then how do you filter whose podcast you do? This is good. This is good information for people listening because I think people should filter.
I take a look at the people they interview whose opinions I really disrespect. And I see how they approach them.
Interesting.
You know, and I just think I've turned down movies and interviews because I've interviewed people that I don't want to be on the same platform as. I don't attack them for it. It's just not a space I want to be in. I think you should. I'm not really against the concept of giving people you disagree with platforms. I think conversation is important. But sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, this is not a game I want to be a part of. You know, I don't want to be around people who are. I've done it not knowing, but I don't want to be on platforms where people are misogynists. I don't want to be on platforms where people are homophobes or transphobes. I watch all these guys now punch down on pronouns and trans people, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you punching?
I heard you talking about that.
I hate that so much, dude. There's nothing I disrespect.
You definitely
more.
Don't like bullies.
I don't like bullies.
I love that about you.
I don't like bullies for 2 reasons. One, I think it's the wrong thing to do. And also, I just don't respect how stupid it is. Like, it's just like business-wise stupid. 100%. It's good right now because you're watching all these people right now get internet famous because they're mean. That won't last.
No.
I guarantee you that won't last.
Short-term win, long-term loss.
Totally. So I don't.
It's fast. It don't last.
And
I always thought that
it's true.
Fast, I want to build brick by brick by brick. I want to build foundational.
I don't want to be.
That takes time.
I don't want to have conversations with people who are misogynists, homophobes, transphobes. I don't want to be on I'll sometimes do it because I'll get into the fight. I want to have the fight. But then they back off. Because they don't have it in them to really go at me. Right. But to me, the number one issue is getting people out of poverty in terms of the socioeconomic of the world. So if you are creating spaces where you think because you don't understand something or you don't understand the narrative or maybe the narrative isn't perfect.
Yes.
You're just going to shit on it.
Yes.
I don't respect those kind of people.
Yes.
And they're not just men, by the way, the men and women who do that. And you have the right to.
Yes.
I don't respect it.
Yes.
I don't want to be a part of that.
Yes.
But I want to be around thoughtful, interesting conversations. There'll be people who be mad at me for saying that, because I'll get people in my DMs. I do stuff, promoting, drag shows and promoting, and people will get at me going, this is what's happening in our schools. And I'm like, you know what?
Sure.
You have the right to express yourself. You have the right to also not be responded to. I'm not here for it.
George, I gotta segue because we got a couple minutes left. Because if I came
But
all the
that's
way,
it?
if I came all the way here, that's an hour almost. If I came here all the way from Canada, hockey night in Canada, I'd be bludgeoned. I'd be the
What, if
Canadians
you didn't
would
ask me
bludgeon
about that?
They'd bludgeon me.
Oh.
Say, you sat down with Strombo, ask him about hockey night in Canada. My first thought when I found out that you're doing hockey night in Canada, I was like, wow, that is a change up. You did it. Now, you said in another interview, which I loved, you said sometimes you got to do shit in life just to do shit. So can you surmise that in a couple minutes, just the whole experience? You even said, hey, it kind of helped my career out a little bit. There was
Hugely.
pros, cons.
It hugely
brought me
helped my
back
career.
in, boom, 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 unexpected.
The Hockey Night in Canada thing hugely helped my career.
Yes.
And that's what people don't understand.
Yes.
In Canada specifically, when you get fired from a show, the reaction is usually for a couple of reasons, but one of them is people don't really know how the business works.
Sure, of course.
Which is fine.
Yeah, mentality.
I took the Hockey Night in Canada job suspecting it wasn't going to work.
Sure.
No, I suspected it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't believe that the people at the network or the teams had the stomach for it.
Yeah.
And I knew they wouldn't. And also you don't come on after the guy, Ron McLean, who's beloved by a lot of people. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. And so when I got offered it, I remember saying to them, you guys don't want this.
You're not ready for this.
You don't want this.
Yeah.
They said, yes, we do. And I'm like, you don't have the stomach for it.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, fuck it.
This is what you came for.
Fuck it.
So you doubled down. I just love it.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Because I actually stand by my values. You know what's crazy? You can't explain this to people, because you can to some people.
Sure.
Most people in the game didn't understand this. Somebody once who I worked with said to me, you have to understand, you're not a hockey guy.
Sure.
Right? And I said to them, correct. I'm a host.
Yes.
You're the hockey guy.
Yes.
I think at that point I was the most experienced host to ever get the job.
Yes.
I think Ron and Dave were in their 20s when they got the job.
Yes.
I was in my 40s.
Oh, yeah.
And I had hosted a lot of TV and radio.
Tons.
So I knew what we should do to make that show work.
Sure.
I look at, like, now I look at, and this isn't about Hockey Night in Canada because they're great people who work there, but I look at mainstream hockey coverage, sports coverage, and then I look at podcast coverage.
Yes.
And podcasts are eclipsing them.
100%.
And you know why that is? Because those cats didn't know, they didn't see it coming. I was trying to tell them, one day I'll tell people the things that were said to me behind the scenes. Maybe I never will. But the things that were said to me behind the scenes, I would just sit there going, everybody's just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Sure. And
it's coming. Look at what's happening. I was listening to Keith Olbermann's podcast. Look at what's happening in baseball. Local TV contracts are going away. As a result, teams are going to lose players because they can't pay them, or managers, staff.
Yeah.
Things are changing.
Yes.
In sports. And the infrastructure of it was not prepared for it, even though we have been telling them it was coming. Oh. So now I'm not mad at it. It was actually great for my career, because the moment I got Hockey Night in Canada, I started House of Strombo, right away.
Yes.
Knowing that was going to end before, knowing that I was going to take this and add another layer to what I did. So, and that's what's got me doing all this. So I'm grateful for it.
George, thank you for coming on the show. Please tell everybody what you got going on. I could talk to you forever. I hope we can do this again.
Yeah, sure, man. Absolutely.
I'm gonna be back in the hood.
Yeah, let me know.
You gotta
follow
vegan tacos or something.
Oh, dude, El Cochinera is so good.
I seen your
I found a ghost kitchen a friend of mine took me to in Silver Lake too, which has got great vegan tacos.
Yeah.
Vegan Mexican food has not been my favorite until the last year.
Yeah.
It's starting to get better. I'm on Apple Music every day. I do a show called Strombo. Which is fun. Yeah. But follow the YouTube channel, The Strombo Show. More stuff's coming on there.
Yes.
Follow the YouTube show. Yeah.
This is great. Again, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in from Los Angeles. Sometimes you got to pack your bags and you got to go to where the spot is. Everybody, this show would not be possible without you, the audience. Thank you for riding with us. And curiosity should always be your mandate. Much love, Team Holtz. Thank you so much, my man.
Thanks for having me.
We're so glad you enjoyed this episode of the Ryan Holtz Show podcast. Please don't forget to smash that 5-star review, as Team Holtz will love you for it. Also, say hi to Ryan anywhere on social media using the handle @RyanHoltz1. That's RyanHoltz1. And if you or your business is looking to expand your brand, book a brand jam with Ryan using the link in the show notes.